Kick it. Yes, I can. I'm waiting. We're here and we're waiting. We're here to do a podcast. My son made up a song today, something about an elephant in his cabinet, something. Yeah. He was running around singing it. And I'm like, did you make that up? He goes, I did make that up. Did. Oh, that's nice. He's going to be a funny songwriter before we know it. Oh, look, it's live. We're live. So let's begin in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 700, recorded on Wednesday, December 19th, 2018. The 700 Science Club. Hey everyone, I am Dr. Kiki, and tonight on This Week in Science, we are going to fill your heads with loopy black holes, quiet orangutans, and memories. But first,
disclaimer. As another trip around the sun nears its end, we often begin taking a number of looks back at the year in science that was, with a top 11 best of recountdowning, which I believe is next week's show. Despite that, this is not the show in which we wistfully look back on the year that was. It's hard not to take a little pause here at the 700th episode of TWIS and think of all the science stories we've thunk about together. That's 2 episodes a day, every day, for all the days of 2018 that led up to this show. How many more stories are headed our way? And how, no matter what seems to be going on in the world at any given time, each week we all get together to find out what's been going on. This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
and a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back again. Just a normal week. No, it is a normal week, but there's all sorts of science, and we're celebrating our 700th episode.
Woo-hoo.
Woo! We have a lot of great science ahead. Time to pop the corks and get ready for the good show.
Justin. Oh, there we go. There we go.
There we go. I've got my pretend champagne here. It's fizzy and bubbly, but not champagne. Oh, but I'll keep it in the little I've got a little champagne chamois, holds on to it, so we can imagine it's champagne. And
Cheers, everybody! Job well done.
Cheers!
700
episodes. Well done.
Everyone who has been with us for whether it's one episode or all 700 or even beyond that. Back to the days when we were only on the radio.
So this is 700 podcast episodes.
This is 700 podcast episodes, 14 years worth of podcasting efforts.
I told somebody that today. They went, there were podcasts 14 years ago?
There was this one. And that
Just
was
this
about
one.
it. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, we are one of the very first science podcasts that was available in the podcast universe. Yeah. We're historical. We're historical.
Relics.
Yeah.
Somebody update the Wikipedia.
So on this week's show, we are going to reminisce a little bit, everyone. But as usual, we have lots of science news. I have got stories about loopy black holes and some fossil finds. Justin, did you bring anything other than a cold?
I'm still working on what stories I'm bringing. It'll find something.
You'll find something. We'll get here eventually.
The ultimate multitasker.
Yeah, and Blair, what is in the animal corner?
I brought the sound of danger, the smell of danger, and how to listen for your home sweet home.
Oh, I thought you were going to say danger.
Not quite.
So much danger.
Last minute twist.
Oh, it's good to have a twist when you've got the danger stories that you're getting involved in. All right, everyone, as we jump into the show, I would like to remind you that you can subscribe to the TWIS podcast on iTunes and the Google podcast portal, on Spotify, on Pandora, Stitcher, Spreaker, and TuneIn. And you can find us on YouTube and Facebook as well. The best way you can find us is just search for This Week in Science, or you can visit TWIS, TWIS.org for information. And also at twis.org, you can find information about this year's 2019 Blair's Animal Corner TWIS Calendar. They're available now. They are available now. Get one while you can. Before next year, everyone. That's right. But now, it is time for, maybe a little, let's start with a little bit of reminiscing. Nostalgia, the Wayback Machine. Our top
11 list.
11.
We're gonna do better than everybody else.
Yeah,
we're gonna do 11.
We picked 11. It's our baker's dozen. Baker's 10.
Yeah, because there's always a question is, okay, that's the 10. What would have been number 11? Like, what's the one that got edged out?
Yeah.
It won't be edged out on this show.
No. There's no edging out. We get everything on this show. Everything will be in this show.
The whole kit, the whole caboodle.
That's right. So if you want to join us down here talking about these various stories from the past year, call us at
No, that was once upon a time when we were at KDVS and I had a Valley Girl accent. I had much more.
I think I sounded exactly the same.
You sounded the same. I think I had more vocal fry going on 14 years ago. That episode is from December 27th, 2005, when we were counting down the top 11 stories from 2005. And we will be doing the same thing next week, but for 2018. I thought it would be fun to look at the list of where we were. Although we actually, This Week in Science, the podcast, I've edited a version of it for KDVS 90.3 FM since we started podcasting. We've been on the air at KDVS since the year 2000. Yeah. The podcast got its start in 2005 and very early in the year, March of the year. And I wanted to see what the stories were that made the cut. So the top 11 that Justin and I picked from 2005. 11, cryptobiology. Justin, 2005 was the year of the Kalimantan monkey cat.
Yes, which we're still getting closer every year. And closer.
And closer,
to
indeed.
The monkey cat.
Number 10 was human reconstruction and cyborgs. Apparently, it was a big year for adding things to people. Number 9, nanobots. There were lots of little teeny tiny robots on the scene all over the place. Number 8, paleontology. There was a bunch of human fossil finds. There were a bunch of animal fossil finds, a new Archaeopteryx find in 2005. So a lot was being discovered on the edge of paleobiology and paleontology. Still going on. It was, I think 2005 started kicking off a massive trend in that area. Number 7, space robots. Cassini got to Saturn in 2005 and was looking at the rings. We have Deep Impact, which landed on an asteroid, Hayabusa, which landed on asteroid Itokawa, and then in December of 2005, lost communications. And we didn't know what was going on for a little while. Big year for space robots. Number 6, bird flu Mageddon and Tamiflu. I guess apparently bird flu was bad.
Yeah,
but
I remember that.
and Tamiflu was all the rage.
Yes, and there was a big scandal about the Tamiflu too.
And there was a big scandal. Exactly. Number 5, there was a big finding relating to the beginning of the universe. There was a giant galaxy found with lots more stuff in it than we would have expected. Sorry, my cat keeps playing with my computer and I'm afraid she's going to turn it off. Like, leave my computer alone. Oh, this is how she gets my attention. Pay attention to me, human. Human. Yeah, with the threats of killing the computer. Fair enough, cat. So, beginning of the universe, there was a massive galaxy found, but really, really far out. So it was in an unexpected place with more stuff in it than we would have expected for where it was found, and so it kind of put big questions into the formation of galaxies in the universe, how everything got going. Again, number 4, origin of life. There were lots of finds related to molecules and bits and pieces, the building blocks of life out in the universe in 2005. Funny story that today my son looked at me and said, "Would you get sick if you ate primordial soup?" That's a really interesting question.
Very good question.
Yep.
Wait, what in it would make you sick?
I know,
What
it's
would there
building
be?
blocks of life. It's
What
the
would-
building blocks. It's
Yeah.
not actually.
Yeah. What would be there to get you sick?
I mean, it might make
I
you
think
barf,
that's a good
depending.
question.
You might
I think
barf.
you'd be fine. I think you would be fine.
Yeah.
That'd probably
know,
be the
exactly.
cleanest soup you've ever had.
That's right. It's pre-life. So, number 3 in 2005 were stem cells and a big cloning scandal. Stem cell cloning scandal. That was the year of the Korean researcher Woo-suk Wang. Exactly. He was found to have lied about a bunch of his research. Thankfully, that lying did not stop the industry of stem cells from moving forward.
Or him. He came back out and did cloning later to prove that he could do it.
Yep. He's like, I can do this. I just, got off on the wrong foot there.
Yeah. That seems very full circle. We had that, and now we have the CRISPR scandal now. That's like...
I'm just lazy at data entry. I don't show my work.
Let's see. Number 2 in 2005 was human-caused global warming. So 2005, there was some ice cores that were taken, or it was published research, probably many years in the making, published research related to ice cores, that the gas levels and the types of gases that were there really started to put the nail in the coffin for human causes of global warming. And
we acted quickly and rectified that situation.
In the last 14. Hey, people, we're not arguing about that anymore, are we?
Not really. Not really. We're not effectively, not really at all.
No. And now and then number 1 for 2005, evolution. Apparently, there were lots of big evolution stories. There was the chimpanzee genome that was published, among many others, and there was a lot of really interesting news that added to our understanding of how life has evolved on this planet.
And there was, for those who can't remember the ancient medieval times of 2005, there were people trying to put stickers on textbooks with disclaimers that evolution was just a theory. And we're actually trying to get things reworded or removed from textbooks so that children would not learn about evolution. That's how medieval 2005 was.
Hey, that's still happening.
Well, I don't think they have the pull that was. I mean, it was like there was the Texas, at least Texas originated textbooks were in some serious danger.
Still happening.
It's
Fair
still
enough.
happening. It
Fair
is.
enough.
It is still happening, which makes me a little sad. But, it's really neat to look back at 14 years ago. Well, I guess it would have been our top 11 would have been taking place about 13 years ago now. But it's really neat to look back and see how many things are still topping the list. Global warming, I'm sure, is going to be huge. Stem cells are going to be huge again, probably this year. We'll see. Paleontology, human origins is really big. We haven't put our list together, but I'm excited to see how many of these things are still going to be huge on our list for 2018.
Yeah, just make fun of all you want of the medieval days, kids. You're still living in them.
Yeah.
We're still in them. 14 years isn't really that long a period of time when you start looking back. A lot changed, but so much stayed the same. Oh dear. Yeah, and yes, I'm not going to even talk about everybody
We
who
were taking
thinks
callers
that
on a telephone.
we
with
were
live
taking on a
callers.
real telephone.
Speaking of,
Landline.
Goldizator in the chat room wants to know if you will be playing the recording of the delivery guy calling the show to be let in.
I am not going to play that recording, but thank you for reminding me. Yes,
What
that was
were you getting delivered?
probably pizza.
Yeah, there's a lot of pizza eaten at the station.
Pizza delivery. There are many. Yes.
When did the show record? 11 a.m.?
No, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
8 a.m. Pizza
Yeah.
at like 8 or 9 a.m.?
Yeah, it's a college. There's
Yeah.
people just getting to bed. Actually, and there's somebody finishing a show that when we get there who'd probably been on the air for a while.
Yeah, that's fair.
All's fair in college and pizza. And moving on up, let's talk about some science that is going on right now, here and now. This is some really mind-bending, interesting theoretical physics related to black holes. So some researchers in theoretical physics have taken a look at the physics that occurs at the singularity, which is the point in the center and the deepest part of the black hole where all of the mass is being smushed together and where all of physics changes, where we go past the event horizon into a world where our normal physics does not explain what's going on. And there's a switch between the dominant macro physics, the standard model holding sway versus quantum principles holding sway. And where it changes is a big question. And so one of the big questions here, Abby Ashtar and Javier Olmedo at Pennsylvania State University and University Park, and also some other researchers, Parampreet Singh at Louisiana State University, they're trying to figure out what happens to matter after it falls into a black hole and reaches the center. We have ideas about it, but we don't really know. And we've got Hawking radiation, or we think some stuff comes back out again, and it just dissipates. The black hole will dissipate slightly over time, but we're not really sure. And there's an idea, a candidate theory for providing a quantum mechanical description of gravity. It's called loop quantum gravity, that they showed predicts space-time as continuous from the black hole through the center into a new region of space-time in the future where matter spews out as a white hole. So this idea is that black holes aren't just like a pit in space. They are something of a wormhole in space. And that matter goes in one side and that it gets spit out as energy from another. So black hole transitions to white hole. And so this passage across the center that they're talking about is possible, they say, thanks to the distortion of the space-time geometry inside the hole that's allowed by general relativity. And so they've been looking at this hypothesis involving white holes to figure out what's going on. And this is where the loop quantum gravity takes hold. And the loop quantum gravity is able to represent the fabric of space as a spin network that evolves in time. And this is one idea that, and the researchers followed down this path. And it's this particular transition of this spin network, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around, but that it's a quantum tunneling transition that occurs at the horizon of a black hole and tunnels it into the future as a white hole.
So, a million questions, but here's one.
Yes.
If we think that black holes lead to white holes in the future, how come we haven't found evidence of white holes now?
How do you know you're not living in one, Blair? How do you know
How do
you're
we
not
know?
living in one now?
And so they actually think, we maybe have seen evidence of white holes. There are things that we don't understand and don't really have explanations for currently, such as fast radio bursts that we pick up in space. And there is this possibility that there are cosmic rays that could be detected, or these fast radio bursts that may be the emissions from white holes.
So how can we test this? Can we throw something into a black hole to find out?
See where it pops up?
Yeah.
We'll dye it as a color and throw it in.
Yeah.
And then see if we see that color somewhere else in the future.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess the question will be if the quantum loop gravity transition does take place at the center of a black hole and matter gets spit out the other end as a white hole, then maybe there are certain predictions that could be made about what that matter would look like, or what the energy signature would look like. So then the experiment would be to observationally look for evidence of those signals in space.
It's a one-way visit, right? You can't go backwards into a white hole and come out a black hole in the past.
Well, wouldn't that be interesting? I mean, I don't know.
Touche. I don't know, Blair.
I love it though.
What?
Wait, part of the problem is when you're talking about where and when something happens, when the Big Bang actually created time and space, and before that there wasn't time and space, or space-time. Thank you. Then you're talking about something that goes through and ends up in space-time somewhere else at some other time. That's still just being in this universe, and that matter is just maintained here, still in this same place where it's always been. It just sounds like they're talking about a black hole going supernova after getting big enough. I mean,
kind of. I mean, it's kind of but it's not a black hole just bouncing back immediately once it reaches a certain size. It is that this mass doesn't just collect in one place, that it modulates and I guess twists space-time to spew out. It's a hose. It's like
except
hose.
Then we should see what, really massive black holes that seem not to have as much mass as they should, or very small black holes that have a lot of mass. Like what we see, I think, seems to be pretty consistent ratio of size of solar masses of a black hole, and its Schwarzschild or Lorentz point or whatever.
Schwarzkopf, limit.
They seem to be like there in relative relation to what makes sense. I don't know. I would need a lot more. We need one of these loopy physicists on the show
to come talk with us about it.
I thought you were going to say we need to throw one of those loopy scientists into the black hole to find out what happens.
But it's there was a study also this week that was looking at the magnetic fields around black holes, and based on what we know about black holes and what you're talking about, magnetic fields should produce very predictable behaviors around black holes. And the study found that it's not as cut and dried as we thought. So there's something wonky going on with magnetic fields around black holes that we can't explain either. So there's a lot that's still really unknown. I mean, black holes are areas of space that we can't see because they emit no light. They emit no energy. It's what's around them, their halos that we can detect.
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea that physics, that space-time breaks down at the center of black holes is an intriguing one. And this is an idea that has gone back a long while, but I don't think people have really come up with great explanations for how a white hole could really exist. And so this is interesting.
I guess I'm missing the part that says why that's necessary. Like, what's the big mystery? It's not even a hole. It's not a pit. It's a round. It's a spherical object in space, just as our planets and stars, right?
But is it? That is the question. You're wrapping your human concepts around something that's bigger than your brain.
They're round. Look at the halo. Show me a triangular haloed black
But the
hole.
question is, Justin,
that looks like evidence of a whirlpool at the bottom where it's going out into a different. I don't.
So
know.
when things kind of are sucked in, the question is then, is it just like a trash compactor? Is it just like, okay, there you are, you're there forever.
I smash you into my center.
So part of the reason I would assume that they get larger is that there is a maximum amount of stuff that can fit in any little iota
that's
of space.
the question.
But that might be, you're not just fitting it in space, you're fitting it in space-time. So if time is different in that intense physics, then maybe that's just why we don't see anything come out. Because
that's exactly what this is about.
Moving really slow. But it's not getting, I mean, if the wormhole, if instead of wormhole, you say, hey, it takes longer than you can conceive for that thing to break apart. And when it does so energetically.
But so think, E equals MC squared, right? You've got a mass, you've got the mass and the energy relation, right? And this is related to time. And so as things get more massive, they have bigger gravitational fields, time slows down. We know general relativity, Einstein's theories hold up with the slowing of time with more massive gravitational fields. So bigger black holes, even contain stronger gravitational fields, slow down time more. And from a write-up in Live Science, it's explained as, because of this, one possible interpretation of this new work is that matter falls into a black hole and then bounces, shooting the mass back across the cosmos. Because time is so slow near the center of a black hole, that process simply is taking an enormous amount of time. If the researchers are correct, in the very distant future, where there are now black holes, matter will be erupting, spreading matter throughout the cosmos.
So you're both right.
Yes.
Once again, science rears its ugly head. You're both right.
Yeah. Pretty fun stuff. Mind-bending and a lot of fun. We got some more stories? What's going on in the world?
Justin?
Which world would you like to talk about? This is, you think the future is going to be strange with the white holes. Saturn, if you stick around for not very long, for 300 million years, which that's like nothing in the history of our own planet, you may not recognize Saturn from another planet because it won't have rings. This is the take that I'm getting from the Cassini mission, as they witnessed the falling rain of rings, ice, down to the planet. I guess they ran the calculations and said, yeah, we may be seeing sort of peak Saturn ring right now.
Peak Saturn. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, the Cassini mission, when it crashed into Saturn, it detected lots of particles falling onto Saturn. this ring rain. We talked about that this year. And now they've figured out that, I mean, Saturn's rings aren't going to last as long as TWIS. Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
That's what it's on. Yeah.
Yeah, once we all get our robot bodies, we'll just carry on.
I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, could you imagine coming into a solar system? Right now, our solar system is the way it is because we're here, we see it this way. We've been able to visualize these beautiful rings around Saturn. Uranus and Neptune have rings, but they're pretty faint, and we don't really see those. Did they have bigger rings once upon a time? If we go into the future and Saturn doesn't have much by the way of rings, what would scientists there in the future think about the development of our solar system? Would they think about, oh, maybe these big gas giants had big rings around them? Maybe not.
Yeah, there would be a lot less Saturn tattoos, and they're not like there could just as easily be a car named Uranus.
There you go.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know. I think this is it's one of those really interesting, 100,000 to 300,000 years in the future, Saturn might not have rings.
300 million.
300.
Million.
Okay. Lots. Okay.
A little bit longer, but yeah.
A little longer. Sorry. But I'm fast forwarding a little bit. I get excited. I want things to happen faster. But sometime in the future, researchers show up and go, oh, that's the way it looks. And their questions about how things formed would be completely different based on the structure of everything. And would they ever know?
Well, and then, once we start looking at planets outside of our own solar system, how will we know if they had rings? Will we be able to detect it?
Exactly.
And we've seen and I don't have my facts straight, but we've seen faint rings around other known planets in our solar system that we know to have faint rings. So those may be remnants. I mean, this might just be a normal
planet
part
thing.
of just normal planet formation. Is you get a sort of belt of material that's around or showed up later. Maybe it was from an impact. Maybe it was dust at the peripheral that just didn't have time to collect. And so
I want rings. How come we don't have rings?
Maybe we did.
Have you seen my tub?
Our solar system has rings. We've got the asteroid belt. We've got, the Kuiper belt. We have the Oort cloud into which the Voyagers are now traveling into interstellar space.
They're past, I guess.
They're in interstellar space. They're out of the heliopause. The Oort cloud goes for very, very, very long ways. Very mind-boggling distances, and in our lifetimes the Voyagers will not get out of the Oort clouds. In our lifetimes the Voyagers they're still in our solar system.
Blair, our lifetime, she means me and Kirsten's. We understand you will live forever in your robot body.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just in case
someday, Blair's gonna be the first of us to be like, and these wrinkles? What wrinkles? What wrinkles?
My head's in a Tesla now.
That's right. I'm in a Tesla now. All right. Is it time for that part of the show that we love? We love. It's time. Let's talk about animals. It's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
With Blair.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels.
What you got, Blair?
You know how when you're in a situation that seems kind of shady, you don't want to tip off a shady individual that you think they're shady. So you act like everything's okay, and then the second that you're out of that space, you're like, "Oh man, that was kind of shady, right?"
I'm glad I'm out of there.
have a feature of language known as displaced reference. So these are things that are not here, that happened in the past, or will happen in the future. Something that's not present and right in front of you. So displaced reference is something that we see in all human languages. Definitely something we talk about a lot. There's not a lot of our daily speech as adults that I think are based on things happening right here and now. Everything we talk about in This Week in Science is about something that has happened, will happen, happened in a study elsewhere, is happening elsewhere. There's not a lot of us talking about, I am standing here in my house talking about science. So knowing that, interestingly enough, besides humans, only social insects have been shown to have displaced reference before. It was actually in 1973. It was a Nobel Prize winning discovery, and it was on honeybees because bees can communicate to one another where food is. So even though they're not there, they were there before, they're telling bees where to go in the future. They can have that conversation somehow in bee language. So this is the first non-human showing of that. This is claiming we have not seen it in anything else. I would argue a lot of the studies we've done about crows are this exactly, but it sounds like this particular phrase has not been associated with it. So this is one of those classic examples of people assuming that animals are not very smart, and there needs to be more study on these sorts of things, finding a lexicon in individual species to figure out how to test these things. Because I'm convinced, just like with other things like object permanence and with knowing a sense of self, we just haven't figured out how to test this on animals in order to figure out exactly who knows this. I'm not saying everybody can do it, but probably more than just humans and bees. And in this particular study, they were able to find a way to test this on Sumatran orangutans. So orangutans are found in Sumatra and in Borneo. So it's in Sumatra and Indonesia. And they simulated an encounter with a predator. There was a human researcher disguised as a Sumatran tiger walking around on all fours. Orangutan females and their babies.
That's a great job. Hey, what do? I scare lady orangutans.
They observed that despite showing distress, so the animals urinated, they defecated, they showed physical distress, they were scared, they did not respond vocally toward the predator. They waited up to 20 minutes and then did an alarm call. So this is way after the predator had left the space. They did this experiment several times. The average delay was 7 minutes before the females vocally expressed their alarm call. So if you think about it, it would be a huge risk to do the alarm call when the tiger's right there, because if the tiger hadn't seen the orangutan, they'd be going, "Oh, I'm over here." So they wouldn't want to do that. But if they hadn't expressed alarm at all, then the infants they were with might not have known what is dangerous. So this appeared to be a response to tell the babies that's dangerous. Yeah. Their reference to this to kind of prove that was that in the 1970s, there were early attempts to release rescued orangutans that were raised in captivity. And when they reintroduced them back into the wild, pretty much all of them were eaten by forest cats.
Oh my gosh.
Which means something from being raised in the forest was missing to tell them to avoid the predator. So it sounds good. It sounds like this is them waiting until the coast is clear and then going, "See that? That's dangerous."
Yeah, I feel like the zoo orangutan, whichever, is there's. I can see them in the forest, like a Far Side, and the cat's getting closer. Right, the cat's about to pounce. Like, don't worry, if he leaps, he's gonna hit the glass.
Yeah,
fine. We're gonna be fine. Don't worry. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Having that zoo confidence that everything's gonna be, that animals never interact, never happen.
So aside from my very hardline bias on articles like this saying that there's probably a lot of animals that have this that we haven't found yet. This is still a pretty cool finding that there is some sort of language or communication skill in this species, in this social species, that can communicate things after they've happened. If you think about it, if we didn't have past tense, it'd be pretty tough. Like when I was learning French, I remember trying to explain how something happened to me without knowing how to talk in past tense. It's hard.
Yeah.
Everything, well, it's little kids. Nothing's in past tense. Everything's present tense. You're learning it happened. It happens now. It is. I'm experiencing it as I tell you.
Yeah, I go to the zoo. No. Not now. I go to the zoo. Oh, you went to the zoo? Yeah, I go to the zoo, right? Yeah, it's definitely, there's things that break down when you don't have that ability to talk about past, present, future.
Although what's interesting is my daughter would wake up every morning and ask if it's her birthday. And then it was her birthday and she didn't. I was like, why didn't you ask if it was your birthday? She goes, because it's my birthday.
Oh, she was running a game, I think.
Just hoping.
Maybe if I ask him, he'll forget and he'll...
Right. Yeah, like she might be getting extra birthday if she just asked every day. But the day it's her birthday, no, doesn't ask.
Yeah. So we move from the sound of danger with orangutans
Ooh.
to the smell of danger with salmon. So salmon, they use their sense of smell for a lot of things. They use it to avoid predators, the aforementioned danger. They use it to sniff out prey and to find food. They also use it, of course, as we all know, to find their home at the end of their lives when they're returning to their spawning grounds to lay eggs and then die. So sense of smell is pretty important if you're a salmon. It's pretty much everything that you do. And a new piece of research from the University of Washington and NOAA Fisheries Northwest Fisheries Science Center shows that the salmon's sense of smell might be in trouble from carbon emissions.
Of course, of everything in the water. It's like, oh, there's too much carbon dioxide and that's just messing everything up. Okay, tell me about it.
So when we emit carbon dioxide, when we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, some of it gets absorbed into the ocean. It changes the chemistry of the ocean. The pH goes down. And when that happens, it can mess with all sorts of sensory systems in animals that live underwater. And to study that, they took tanks of salt water in a lab and put them at 3 different pH levels. The current Puget Sound pH, the predicted average 50 years from now, and the predicted average 100 years from now. They exposed young coho salmon, the juveniles, to these 3 different pH levels for 2 weeks, and then they ran behavioral and neural tests. So I knew this was a cool one because they didn't just see how they changed their behavior, they actually checked out their brains and their genetics. So they put them in these holding tanks and they exposed them to the smell of salmon skin, which means somebody's getting eaten.
One of my friends is not having a good day.
Right.
Usually prompts the fish to hide or run away, swim away. Excuse me.
Yeah, danger. Go away. Danger.
Run away.
Yes.
So the fish that were in the water with the current CO2 levels responded as expected, totally normally, hid or swam away. The fish from both of the tanks with higher CO2 levels didn't seem to mind or detect it. They didn't respond to it at all. So the 50-year average and the 100-year average. So after they did these behavioral tests, they wanted to figure out what was happening here. Is their smell receptors, are those what's messed up? Or is their brain messed up? Or are their genes getting messed up? What's happening? So then the neural activity in the nose and brain, they were looking at the olfactory bulb, where the information about smells is processed, and they measured that to see where the sense of smell was altered. So the neuron signaling in the nose was normal. So their actual smell receptors in their nose, not affected. But when they looked at the neuron behavior in the olfactory bulb, they saw that processing was altered. So they were getting the signal, but their brain wasn't reading it. They weren't responding properly. Then they looked at the tissue from the noses and olfactory bulbs to see how gene expression had changed. And they found that gene expression pathways were altered, for fish that were exposed to higher levels of CO2 in their olfactory bulbs. So the neurons are still detecting odors, but when the signals are processed by the brain, the messages are getting altered.
Wow.
So this is helpful because when you figure out exactly what part of it is getting messed with, you can potentially find a better way to attack it. I don't think we have that answer yet, but if we thought that they weren't responding to the smells properly, people might have tried putting higher levels of the smell in the water to get them to respond, or trying to find how to fix the smell receptors. But now we know it is a neural issue.
I wonder what exactly. I mean, it's usually when CO2 is changing the chemistry. What it's doing is it's changing the pH of the water itself, and so it's usually the number of hydrogen ions that are in the water that are being detected in one way. And so I wonder what exactly is happening in the alteration. What's happening in the neuronal signaling is, say, the set point for threshold sensitivity being changed because the pH has shifted to a higher level, and so basically the olfactory bulb and the fish's brain has gotten more used to that higher level, or I guess a lower level of higher pH, lower hydrogen ion concentration.
So
it's an interesting question.
But I would think so had they not done this thing where they found a little bit of something that they've connected, I would have assumed that there was something more dangerous that they would be concerned with, and that the pH is changing. Now I'm distracted by the fact that there's this other danger signal of I'm heading into the wrong waters. And yeah, if you're in that every day and that bell's not going off, it might be hiding.
Your brain is the brain is basically like everything's dangerous all the time. So the danger signals are swamped because it's always everything is swamping everything out.
Somebody's got their finger mashed down on that button constantly now, and it's not a helpful signal anymore.
So when we think about what's happening to pH in the oceans on the scale, we're looking at oceans were at a pH of about 8.2 for a lot of recorded time. And in the 50 to 100 year range, we're looking at it getting down to about 7.8. Still more basic in the ocean than fresh water. So even if it's getting the pH is dropping like that, it's still probably a normal range for an anadromous fish like this, a fish that's used to freshwater and saltwater. So I'm guessing that this pH change isn't enough to cause an alarm in their body systems. Their body probably doesn't have a problem with the water itself. It has to be something that's messing with their brain chemistry.
But maybe more so in the case of one that goes from saltwater to freshwater and is looking for maybe pH change in that water, and they're looking for that hydrogen ion change as a directional and as a reassurance. I'm going the right way. What is this number coming out? This is maybe I'm off course. Like we don't know how they.
Very true.
Navigation is.
It could mess. Yeah, if the gradient's not as sharp, that could definitely cause problems for sure. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm assuming because the brain works on electricity, essentially, right? And that's a bunch of negative signs, essentially. And hydrogen ions are floating around more and more. That's a bunch of positives. That's going to mess with things. At the very basic, like middle school science level, that means that's going to mess up your balance of those pluses and minuses, right?
Basic.
It's going to change things a little bit for sure. Yeah. Yes. I mean, and you're talking about this is as opposed to breathing air like we do, where we breathe in, all the air, take the oxygen out, and then breathe out a whole bunch of carbon dioxide and other stuff. Fish are taking it in out of the water. Maybe higher carbon dioxide levels in the water mean less oxygen to their brains also. I mean, but like you said, it's not a big enough change that it would really be physiologically important because they're kind of used to this range already. So what is going on there? I think this is fascinating, and the question is who else, how the mechanism, what's going on, and then how many other species are being affected in this way.
And also, how do they separate it from all the things, all the drugs, all the hormones, all the everything?
Right.
The
So actually, they
pharmaceuticals,
did
the
And then can we even tell if we're
toxoplasma gondii, like
yeah? And then
everything else we're throwing
what
at
about
'em.
the hormone? What about the reproductive hormones so that we can smell which fish are ready to mate? What's this is all getting dangerous and difficult. Danger in the water.
But I mean, in this study, they did parse it out. They tried to parse it out from pollutants in their study. So that was something that they considered. But I mean, as we've talked about before, we were talking about sea turtles before we even went on the air tonight. It's when you have all these different stressors on a species, one or two, they might be able to handle. But at a certain point, if there's so many, something has to be the last straw for them. And so salmon, an animal that is an important part of ecosystems all over the United States at least, but also in a lot of other places, but also animals that eat lower animals on the food chain in the oceans. They go out into the oceans, come back. They have this huge impact on ecosystems. So I think salmon is a good place to start because we know they're so important and impactful and sensitive. But if they're being affected, there's, as Kiki said, there's definitely other animals that are being affected by this.
Absolutely. Thank you for this wonderful animal news. Oh, our downstream effects. Come on, people. Let's make some changes. Let's keep working on that. It's time for us to take a break from this science for just a moment. Stick with us, though, because we have another half of the show coming up with more science in the second half. I've got fossil finds. We've got more coming related to this 700th episode of This Week in Science. Please stay tuned.
Can't explain things you've heard more than intuition. A lot of reason shows the way to go. New conclusion. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need.
Not so much living undead.
Not so much living undead. That just kind of annoyed me. Not so cool. New planets.
No, we don't need any more new planets. Just leave the maps and the textbooks the way they are. Go ahead and identify them, name them whatever crazy name you want. They're not getting in.
They're not in our solar system. Our solar system's full. Sorry.
Type your belt. It's like it's a landfill. Forget it. Who cares?
Not so cool. The end of the world.
I'm against because I like with the world having here. I'm happy with this one.
That's right. Might be cool. Water on Mars.
If it's true, that would definitely be cool. But it's
right.
Because they don't know it's a maybe still.
Genetic engineering of plants might be cool.
Or it might kill us all.
That's right.
We got to wait and see.
Same thing for world robot domination.
I think they won't kill us. They're going to enslave us.
So they might be cool.
I don't know. I'd have to see. They'd have to give me a little pitch on what global domination exactly is going to look like.
That's right. What also might be cool, the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor that they finally decided to put
Fusion in France.
That's right.
Or it might be a big monetary sinkhole.
That's right.
Who knows?
Living forever might be cool.
Yeah, if we can cure cancer.
If we can cure cancer, and cures for cancer might be cool.
They might be cool because they're like, how many studies do we just pass on? Not even doing because it's like this will cure cancer. This might cure cancer. AIDS has got like a small segment of that market of research saying it's going to cure AIDS, but cancer is like getting cured every day by another study.
All right, everybody. I'm Dr. Kiki. And tonight I got to press the right buttons. I thought I had them all pressed. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for listening to us and for being a part of this ongoing show, our 700th episode. Those of you who are watching live right now, thank you for watching. Ed, I see you out there. I think you have been with us all these 700 and even beyond. I know there are more of you out there. If Pamela's out there, I know she's been with us for a long time. Many of you have been with us. And you know what? We want to keep going. We want to keep doing this show, but we need your help. So I'm going to tell you a few ways that you can help us out. First, Blair's Calendar. If you go to TWIS.org, you can get yourself the 2019 TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendar. It's $20 plus shipping, and it is full of fun, sciencey holidays and art created by Blair. All of the months have their own unique animals, unique art styles, and this calendar has been going back. We have 4 calendars here. We had a coloring calendar. We had our first very large calendar the first year. We also had, then we switched to another, all of them with the beautiful hypnotoad on the cover. You've got 3. You got to get yourself the 4th. Come on, keep it up. The TWIS calendar, TWIS.org. You can head over there right now to get that for you. And while you are at TWIS.org, you can also avail yourself of other goodies and ways to help out TWIS. That's right. You can help us out multiple ways. Number 1, after you buy the calendar, you can head over to our Zazzle store. You click on that Zazzle store link and it will take you to the wonderful place where you can find things like our TWIS lumbar pillow, artwork by Blair from previous Animal Corner calendars. We've also got mugs and shirts with the TWIS logo, lots of items that are great for you to share your love of TWIS or also to be a gift for somebody you know who enjoys TWIS. Surprise a baby. If there's a new baby in the family, they could have an awesome onesie with Animal Corner art on it. That's right. Right now, it looks like there is a 20% off deal, but a portion of the proceeds do come to help TWIS. So if you shop at our Zazzle store, you will help us out. Secondarily, you can donate directly to it. To TWIS, click on the donate button on the sidebar at twis.org. It'll give you a PayPal interface where you can donate. You can also go to the most recent episode and scroll down through the show notes. And at the bottom of the page, there are some pink buttons that again take you to a PayPal interface, but allow you to choose to donate on a recurring basis. So you can choose $2, $5, or $10 a month. Set it and forget it. And then you just know you are helping TWIS out. You can also head to our Patreon page. That's right. We use Patreon, which is a community for crowdfunding to support projects in the arts and media. And you can become a patron as easy as a couple of clicks a button. You click on the Become a Patron button on our Patreon page and then choose the amount that you would like to support us at per month. You're just charged once a month. And, you know, the $10 a month deal is pretty awesome because we say thank you on the show. At the end of the show, we will name you if you choose that $10 a month level. But there are other levels that can fit just about any financial situation. Head on back over to twis.org and you will be able to also find wonderful subscribe buttons. So if you have not ever subscribed to TWIS, if you don't know, if you know somebody who should subscribe to TWIS, click on that orange subscribe button. It opens up links directly to YouTube, iTunes, and the Google Play podcast portal. Subscribe and get TWIS all the time. Whenever we publish an episode, get yourself the episode. It's easy. You subscribe, it supports us, grows our audience, and it's just wonderful. We can all be a big family growing together for 700 more episodes. Let's see if we can do that. Everyone, thank you for your support over these many, many years. 14 years is a long run, and we're going to see what we can do about keeping it going. And we really appreciate your support. We could not do this without you.
Can't explain things you've heard more than intuition. A lot of reason shows the way to go. New conclusion. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need.
Ooh, Justin, we're muted. Okay, I'll say it. And we're back with This Week in Science.
Let's see if we can get Justin's audio back. We don't want to lose Justin here. Make sure you're plugged in. What did you do? We can cut this. We can cut this out of the podcast. We can fix this. Oh, I heard it. I heard something. No, it popped for a second, but I don't hear you now. Nope. It popped for a second. You were totally there. He's going to call back. He'll be right back. It's going to be great. This is what happens in live.
We're doing it live.
That's right. But you know, it's just you go cut and then the ed and the podcast is the thing that goes out to the world with the edits.
Here he comes. Here comes Justin Claus. Here comes Justin Claus. Nope.
No, what happened? You left for 5 seconds. Did you turn off a button? Oh, there you are. There you are.
It went unplugged?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
It was unplugged.
I don't think I touched
the
this
squirrels did it. Some squirrels broke it.
I have a squirrel story to tell you, by the way, in the after show.
After show.
I had one communicate in human languagey terms with me. No joke. And we're back with more This Week in Science.
That's right. We are back. And oh my gosh, it's time for that part of the show where we talk about what has science done for me lately. And this week, we have a special letter written by none other than Blair.
Okay, so I did, instead of what has science done for me lately, since it's episode 700, I decided to write about what TWIS has done for me specifically. Lately, of course, there's lots of good stuff, but I want to go way back, way back. It did something really, really amazing. So I went all the way back today to January 2012. I found out it was episode 355. On that day, a young zookeeper, unsure of what her place was in the world, she rings a doorbell in Noe Valley. Just a few months later, that zookeeper, still unsure of what her birthplace is, and in this world, what her chosen profession is in this world, is enjoying every moment of science communication, but is asked a point-blank question in the chat room about what authority she has, as she is not a scientist. She agrees. She is not a scientist. The good doctor sitting next to her chimes in. You read articles, you vet methods, you do supplemental research, and you communicate complex science to the public. You study the science and currently work in it. You use scientific thinking. You are a scientist. You are a scientist. Something clicks. That young scientist was never the same, ever. And that was a good thing. Thanks to this show, science is part of my identity and a priority in my life. And I grow and I learn every week. Thanks to this show, I get to use knowledge and skills that I don't always get to use other days of the week. I get to be an artist when I was told I never could. Thanks to this show, my life is organized, defined, and explained totally differently, and my passion has a place to live. Thanks to the listeners, the tweeters, the chat roomers, the Patreon supporters. Thanks to the IT helpers, the friends and family that come out to our live shows. Thanks to Justin for really championing this whole Blair's Animal Corner thing, which in episode 356 was originally named Blair's Animal House. I found out today. But most of all, I am thankful for what Dr. Kiki has done for me, who gave me a chance, something when I was definitely not an obvious choice. I was not a grad student. I was not even in education or communication at the time. But this zookeeper met up with her for coffee to discuss an internship, and things will never, ever be the same. It's episode 700, and I am thankful for the past 7 years of This Week in Science.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you.
Okay.
I can't talk.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what TWIS has done for me lately.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I could say something. I could say something along pretty darn similar lines about the show and Kiki and you, Blair. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing and enjoying as a newfound career if it wasn't for this show. Absolutely. Okay. So
This
from
show,
this,
science. What has science done for all of us lately? It's brought us together. It brings us joy. It brings me joy every week. You all bring me joy every week.
So all of you, be sure to tell us what science has done for you lately. It could be about TWIS, but it doesn't have to be. It can be about any kind of science. We want to keep going, right, Kiki, with this segment? I love this segment.
I do too.
So go ahead, send them to Kiki at Kirsten@thisweekinscience.com. Or you can send it to our Facebook page, message it, or tweet it out.
And let's move back to the science. Keep this show going.
Well,
I'm all emotional.
Okay.
Okay.
So I may have the cure because there's no clean transition from that inspiring moment to the next story, which talks about dead children.
Oh God!
No.
Don't laugh. This is I'm laughing too because this is so sweet. And this is going to be really awful because this is what the next story is. It's not funny. This is a really horrible, hard story. I had different tears in putting this story together, and now I can't even do it because
this is that inappropriate. This is that inappropriate laughter.
This is very inappropriate laugh. You don't even know this. You're gonna feel so bad at laughing at the story you haven't heard it yet.
I'm laughing at the transition.
There wasn't that. That's why I didn't say. I could have jumped in a long time ago, but I'm like, I don't want to do this story right now. This is not going to
bring it. Let's hear the science.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
All right. So science is inspiring, especially when young people are inspired by science. They can go very far. Young people such as Blair and myself, and the young people that when Kirsten was young and inspired. But in the United States, as of 2016, 8.6 children and teens died each day by firearms, according to a study by members of the University of Michigan Injury Prevention Center, making death by firearm the number 2 cause of death, just trailing motor vehicle crashes. They used to be far behind motor vehicle crashes. Motor vehicle crash death rates have fallen by half over the past few decades. The rate of firearm-related deaths for those 1 to 19 has stayed about the same in those 2 decades. The rate is more than 36 times as high as the average rate across 12 other high-income countries. It's the first time all causes of child death have been tallied by both mechanism and intent, and the rates that cause those deaths over time have been calculated for all of the top causes, but the numbers are pretty stark. Excuse me. 3,140 children died by firearm in the United States in 2016. Cancer. This is the disease that has the foundations, has telethons, has commercials asking you to donate time, money, has the government saying we need to put more resources into fighting. Cancer comes in at 3rd place with only 1,853 versus the 3,140 deaths by firearm in children. And then it goes much further down the list. You get things like suicides and drug overdoses. Birth defects is almost off this map at this point. So lead author of the study, Rebecca Cunningham, director of the University of Michigan Center and an emergency medicine physician at Michigan Medicine, notes that the firearm-related deaths occur at about the same rate. So if you're thinking this is a big city thing, if that's where the numbers are coming from, no. About the same, whether you're talking urban, rural, suburban, It doesn't matter. It's still occurring at about the same rate. Firearm deaths of children and adolescents are an everybody problem, not a problem just for certain populations, says Cunningham. She adds, by using data-driven approach to study these deaths, I hope we can guide the U.S. to apply our resources to help us understand what we can do to prevent these deaths across the country. So I mentioned all the telethons and the funding and the attention that is paid to cancer. The car industry has been safety transformative. People purchase as one of the key decisions the number of stars, the crash tests. We spend tremendous effort and money on the technologies to prevent this. And yet, for some reason, we have this huge blind spot of taking any form of action when it comes to firearms and the threat to children in this country. These numbers that we're talking about are I think equivalent or pretty darn close to the number of people who died on 9/11, the greatest terrorist attack that ever hit this country. It's that happening every single year, and yet we seem to be voiceless at large in opposition. I think this year especially is an important this is an important study, an important thing to focus on. As we look back on this year, one of the things that it's going to be very striking is the number of high-profile child deaths that have taken place this year. So,
Yeah, it's studies like these that are going to help us move toward action. It's people. It's been people in the past who took action because of so many deaths due to automobile accidents. It's still a large number of deaths, more than those killed by guns every year for automobile accidents, but the numbers have declined significantly because people have taken a stand. The data was there and people didn't stand for it anymore. And we're continuing to work to increase safety and to move the bar forward, like you said. But it's studies like this that will point a finger basically and say, this is where we need change. And so this is where science and policy, where science and social life, science and as its role in culture actually will has an impact. It's this kind of study.
And there is one thing that's gonna sound like I'm joking. Okay, I'm not. In this study, they also found boys had 5 times the death rate of that of girls. I think that the shooter rate, which isn't mentioned here, is likely higher than that for boys. There may be just a middle ground where we decide that boys aren't allowed to have guns. We can. You think I'm kidding?
But I
like
think it's a social thing. It is a.
Yeah. I gotta mute because I'm.
You've got a cold, but it is it's a social. Yeah.
Right. It's a social thing, but whenever they're coming up with the best possible reason to have a gun, it's I'm a single woman in this world. I need to protect myself. Right. That we can all agree with somebody being afraid as a single woman in this day and age, protecting themselves. Fine. Women get to have guns, but it seems like the deaths and the killing is taking place by the boys in the first place. Let's just meet in the middle. Ish. I know it's an ish middle. Let's meet in the middle-ish on gun control and just make it a gender specific thing.
So as you know,
down.
As extremist as that may sound, I think that you're getting to an interesting point, which is the number one cause of death in that list was car accidents. And we are more discerning with the people who have the highest rate of problems in driving a car. The super young, the super old, people who have vision impairment, right? So these are the people that have to come in more often, have to get tested more often, have to get re-upped more often, right?
Yeah, and if you've been arrested for drunk driving a number of times, your license is taken away.
If you have too many speeding tickets. And so this is exactly along those lines, right? Is if you're in a group or you are more prone to cause gun violence because we know from scientific research about that. That is a good opportunity to go, maybe you need slightly more screening. It's not that maybe, in the real world, maybe, you can say, we won't give them a gun. We know that's probably not, at least in the short game, going to happen. But you can increase monitoring, and you can kind of adjust your requirements for those groups.
I've got it. So what it is, and you touched on it exactly by talking about cars. You touched on it exactly, because you know who makes that determination in cars. What you're talking about is who has to pay what for insurance.
Right. Gun insurance? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And if it's 5 times or
it's not
10
a bad
times
idea
more for boys.
Mm-hmm. Because then also if you mess up your gun, or if you lose your gun, you have insurance to cover it.
Up to the roof. You are yes. No, that would actually be at least a form of leveling and understanding.
Get Congress on the phone. Come on. A great idea.
There are all sorts these are good solutions worth conversation. Yes.
But based in research,
let's take science and use it to support policies and decision making.
I think Blair's way works better. I think if we, there's an actual legislative control that can come in on hers that might actually, and then, if there was insurance too, and if there was insurance, can you imagine if the insurance companies had to pay out for gun violence? Then there was the legal, which was what it was required for the car industry to even put seatbelts on, which was what, which is what the health industry wants for getting people to have better diets, right? All of those things come into play on influencing government to make changes about regulations on guns and what's a safe gun and what isn't. The insurance company who's having to pay for every one of these things will make those changes.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yep. Yes. Moving on from gun control, let's talk about fossils.
Yes.
I mean, things get buried under the earth all the time, but I'm not going to talk about that right away. That's going to be my second fossil story. My first fossil story is a space fossil.
What?
Yes.
How can there be dinosaurs in space? Although I've argued that there might be some on Mars.
Yes, these dinosaurs, quote unquote dinosaurs, are pristine clouds in space that lack heavy elements. That
How do you
don't
fossilize
have,
a cloud?
Right. Oh. These are what we're talking about. Are
no star activity?
No star formation, no supernovas within that area of space that would have sullied the clouds with the heavy metals that are formed in the center of those exploding stars.
Primordial universal soup.
Yes. So these fossil clouds in space are what we can look at to get an idea of what was going on in the early formation pre-star before things changed and heavy metals started digging into things. And so researchers using the Keck Observatory on Mauna Kea, Hawaii, have been looking at these rare fossil clouds. There were a few of them found, a couple of these clouds found a couple of years back, but they didn't know whether or not they'd be able to find more of them, and they were kind of accidental, they say serendipitous discoveries, and they thought, hey, maybe there will be more, but how can we figure out how to find more of these in a regular methodical way? And so what they were able to do is look through the clouds to target quasars. Previous researchers had only seen shadows from hydrogen and not any heavy elements in the light that was passing through the clouds. And so as a result, these quasars were able to give them a view to be able to find these fossil clouds using the observatory time that they had. The quasar is like having a flashlight behind a cloud or behind a sheet where you can kind of see the light passing through it, but the quality of the light is changed by the material that it passes through. And so the quasar provides these spectral shadows that can be seen. Yes. And so if you want to read more about this is published in the journal Monthly Notices of the Royal Astronomical Society, exploring the origins of a new, apparently metal-free gas cloud at Z equals 4.4. It's on the archive right now. Fossil clouds in space.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. It's kind of neat to think of, we think of dinosaurs, fossils on Earth. We can dig, we can look at fossils, we can look at, little fossilized carboniferous life forms from a long time ago, kind of see what happened in climate ages ago. We can see what happened to life ages ago, how it's changed. We can do stuff like that in space as well, looking at light and dust and these signals. It's pretty cool. Moving on up to actual earthbound fossils. Birds, feathers, right? We have the dinosaur group containing the raptors, the velociraptors, all these that eventually became the birds that we know and love today. They were feathered, right? Lots of feathered dinosaurs. But the idea is that feathering only occurred once. Or did it? Dun, dun, dun. So, a group of dinosaurs has been studied by paleontologists led by Baiyu Jiang from Nanjing University, looking at pterosaurs. These were flying dinosaurs, but they were not from the theropods, the group that became birds. Pterosaurs, part of a different group of dinosaurs, but that flew also. And we always were like, nah, they don't have feathers. But they have these hair-like structures on them, and researchers have called these hair-like external structures pycnofibers.
Okay.
They're like hairs.
Like whiskers, right?
Like whiskers all over their bodies, but not, because they're actually feathers.
Oh.
So
they're like
pterosaurs-
branched.
Yeah, so the pterosaurs it was thought that they were furry with these kind of lots of these kind of pokey hair-like structures. Well, these researchers from Nanjing University looked at fossils of two well-preserved pterosaur specimens from the middle late Jurassic from 165 to 160 million years ago. They looked at morphological, chemical, and macroevolutionary aspects to conclude that they have both monofilaments, two types of non-veined grouped filaments, and bilaterally branched filaments, which is what you would think of as feathers, the branching that occurs. And this was originally thought to be just a theropod thing, but surprise!
Yeah, because they keep you
not.
warm. So they kind of thought that it had to do with the happening of the warm blood. But
Yes.
But yeah, why would a cold-blooded animal?
Well, see, this is the question that's ongoing, is whether or not dinosaurs, how truly cold-blooded dinosaurs were. Because they were big. They were not cold-blooded. I mean, could you imagine these big dinosaurs going, I gotta hang out in the sun before I can go fly somewhere? And then I'm overheating and I can't get rid of all this body heat fast enough. What do I do now? They're related to the body size of some of the larger dinosaurs. There are questions there, but thermoregulation, very important. Feathers and the hair-like structures could have been involved in that. But the big question here is, did feathers evolve further back in the dinosaur lineage than previously thought? Or is this an instance of a convergent evolution where it happened twice?
I bet it starts earlier back.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Yeah. It's the whole idea of Archosaura, of the birds, dinosaurs, and crocodilians that all are kind of related. And they all kind of have a different heart, and alligators have a diaphragm, and they have all sorts of different uses for oxygen than reptiles do. So It definitely, I'm with you. I think it makes way more sense that it would start earlier because they're kind of this extra special group. They're not really warm-blooded. They're not really cold-blooded. They're kind of
And there's a study
special.
out today that's saying ankylosaurs likely regulated their body temperature via an elaborate nasal passage.
The good old turbinate.
Air cooling.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if we had a zoologist here, we might be able to find out if there is more than one definition of a warm-blooded or cold-blooded animal life today, or if that's just those, if there was an experiment that took place with other, in-between states.
It's all about using your metabolism to heat yourself.
Yeah. And there's probably, I'm going to guess, more than 2 ways to do this.
Probably.
Yeah. So this whole the problem isn't that what dinosaurs were. It's that how did we get stuck with having to choose between warm and cold-blooded? Like, it's
the whole thing about last week with the what do you call milk? It's the same conversation. We like to put things, it's the same conversation we keep about. The scientists, people, humans, it's in the human condition to put things in little boxes and smack a label on top. And sometimes things don't fit.
Well, so we just need to keep adding more labels. I mean, just because we learned these things to think that there was this or that at some point doesn't mean we stick with it, right?
It's the whole idea of mutual exclusivity, right? Is that if you put something in a box, it can't also be in another box at the same time. But really, everything exists on a spectrum in the world.
But so we should stop putting things in boxes and start putting them in Venn diagrams, because there it's very easy to.
Yes.
The whole point of having them. If Venn diagrams never overlapped, I think they'd be somebody else's diagram. They'd be boxes. Right. That's what they would be.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, let's move to some quick science news at the end of the show here. Yeah. Justin, do you have do you have any more stories?
Oh yeah, there's this question about how valuable is Facebook to its end users.
Oh yikes!
They took a bunch of students and they were like, give you $1 if you don't use Facebook at all today. And that number out of 130 was around $4. Around $4. Okay. How about $5 for a week? No. That number went to about $14, $15. How about and hang on a sec. Let me give you the actual one. I'm paraphrasing here. It was okay. It was $4 for a day.
Okay.
$4.17 became the average. It was $13.89 that it was the threshold, the average threshold for being off of Facebook for 3 days. A week would have cost $37.
Wow. How
much would they have to be paid not to touch their Facebook account, to shut it down for a year? The average was $1,500 to $1,900, depending on the versions. And there was another run. They did a second auction there where it got all the way up to $2,076.
And I didn't think students were using Facebook anymore.
Now, I think the follow-up question is, how much are you willing to pay to be on Facebook? And the answer was $0.
Yeah, that's true. The second the conversation goes the opposite direction,
the second part I made,
everybody's out. Yeah.
But it was really kind of an interesting. They did an actual what is the value of this thing, and it got all the way up to $1,000 for the year before somebody would be like, "Yeah, I can completely unplug from my social media, friends and family,
take it,
and everybody else." Right?
Oh my gosh.
Wait, you would wait for just a measly $1,000? You would give up updating when this show was going to be on? For a measly $1,000, you would stop liking all of my big life events? Blair,
this is the honest
crashed.
This is the honest truth. The only reason I have Facebook is for TWIS.
Oh,
that's
so
the only reason.
$100, you'd get rid of it for a year. No, but this is what happened, right? Like you think it's like,
if
oh my
TWIS,
gosh.
if I
but-
was not part of this show, I would have ditched my Facebook years ago.
Wow.
Don't ditch it yet. Well, you
Yeah.
can. Do what you want. Do what you
It's
want.
all right. I like being able to talk to our listeners through
Yes,
social
I
media.
think that's important.
So
Yes.
it's important to me to stay.
$150 for the year? Like, what's the number? But this is like when I first looked at the story, I like laughed at like, oh, that's ridiculous. And then I'm like started thinking like, yeah, there's a lot of people who actually I'm friends with who I only communicate through Facebook at this point because we're far flung around the world. But I really value that those few conversations or interactions that we have. Like they're like, yeah, and I kind of get it actually.
Birthdays are important.
Yeah.
So our mutations, I have to talk about CRISPR because it's always on the top of the list these days. The research in which He Jiankui produced 2 twin babies that had their genomes modified has led to a bunch of critiques. There was an article this last week in the Wall Street Journal describing a lot of examples of where geneticists have been using CRISPR to edit animals and had things not go the way that they had planned. So basically, the take-home story of this article is that we don't really know what we're doing yet with CRISPR, and there are unintended side effects. Should we really be using it on people to be taking them, babies, especially to full term? There are lots of things to figure out. So for example, rabbits and pigs modified to grow leaner also got bigger tongues and extra vertebrae.
Ah!
Yeah.
What?
Some goats
Extra vertebrae?
extra vertebrae. Yes. Goats
So a little
modified to
tough.
grow longer cashmere wool. They grew too large to be able to be born naturally and had to be born by C-section. And cattle that had been modified to have lighter coats and to manage hotter temperatures died as calves. They died prematurely. So, so there's a lot that we should still be looking at here. But as I say this, my second story also is from the Francis Crick Institute. This week, researchers have figured out that using certain base pairs in the Cas9 or the RNA target guide, the guide RNA that's part of the CRISPR-Cas9 system, using either an adenine or a tyrosine versus a cytosine, for example, increases the accuracy of the CRISPR-Cas9 system. It also increases accuracy to have DNA that is more open as opposed to more wrapped up around histones and tied up in knots, which kind of makes sense. If it's open, then the CRISPR-Cas9 can get where it needs to get. So we are slowly cracking the code for increasing the accuracy and efficiency of the CRISPR-Cas9 system. We're not quite there yet, but this is something that should be an ongoing conversation and should be part of the conversation as we consider the uses of gene editing for humans. Boom. Blair,
Yes.
what you got for me?
Oh, one last thing. It's all about coral. Kind of important, if you recall. Responsible for about half of the oxygen on Earth, so an important animal. It is sessile as an adult, so it's out, it's planktonic, and then once it finds a place to sit, it grabs onto a rock or sediment, and it's there for the rest of its life. How they find their home is largely unknown. Recent research from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, good old WHOI, on the East Coast, found that sound might be part of the picture. So they took newly spawned larvae from colonies of coral and they put them in a sealed container in different aquatic environments. They also put sound recording devices, a hydrophone, in each of these areas so that they could record the different types of sounds in those places. Then at the end of the experiment, they counted the number of coral that settled in each area. So it was a closed system, so it wasn't anything from inside the water. It was just the sound. What they found was that when there was a variety of low frequency sounds, settlement was twice as high as less healthy control sites. So they think that it's all about this low frequency sound that means it's a hustling, bustling reef with lots of animals. So it's a nice place to live. They talk about how corals are like the rainforest of the oceans, very noisy when they're healthy. And so this helps inform the fact that noise pollution might affect corals. But what I think is especially cool about this is their implications for restoration efforts. Could you take a concrete slab in the ocean, play the sounds of a healthy reef, and start a new reef?
Yep.
Yes.
That would be a really interesting thing to see.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, if you as you want to, or even as you start to transplant a new reef in, just kind of use the sounds and help the coral think that it's growing great. It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, another question here though that it makes me wonder about is noise pollution and how different sounds that humans are creating may be interfering with this kind of thing.
Absolutely. And is this a whole factor in other aquatic animals that we haven't even looked at yet? Because the ocean is filled with noise pollution from us because we don't really think about it. But the good news is potential for starting new reefs. Pretty cool.
It's very cool. Thank you for that story.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, everyone. We have made it to the end of our 700th episode. We'll be back again next week for 701.
701.
Yeah, moving on up. But 714 years passing by in the blink of an eye because it's been so enjoyable, so wonderful. Everyone out.
To be fair, I did just look. I did just count all the other episodes. I think we made a mistake. It looks like this was the 699th episode. Next week is actually 700.
Oh no!
700-ish episode.
You never counted that many episodes in your life, Justin. What a fibber.
TWIS.org, you can find information about the Blair's Animal Corner TWIS 2019 calendar if you are interested. Check it out. I would like to take this moment to thank everyone for being a supporter of TWIS. Fada, thank you for your help in doing show notes and helping with the chat room moderation. I think he's headed out this evening already, but I just want to say thank you to Fada for all of his work helping us out with TWIS. Identity 4, thank you for all of your time and effort helping us to record the show for the podcast. Gord, Ben, who else do we have? Golda Zader, thank you for being here for so long with us. Ed, you've been around for so many years. Who else? Hot Rod. I mean, so many people in the chat room have been with us for years. Thank you for all your time, your thoughts, your chats, your support. Really appreciate having you in our audience, part of our community. And I love counting all of you as my online friends. Thank you for creating this. Thank you to my co-hosts for being amazing co-hosts.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being an amazing producer.
Yeah.
And we hope to do more awesome producering into the new year. Let me also say thank you to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Paul Disney, Richard Onemus, Ed Dyer, Philip Shane, Ken Hayes, Harrison Prather, Charlene Henry, Joshua Fury, Steve DeBell, Alex Wilson, Tony Steele, Craig Landon, John Ratnaswamy, Mark Mazzaros, Jack Matthew Litwin, Jason Roberts, Bill Kay, Bob Calder, Time Jumper 319, Eric Knapp, Richard, Brian Condren, Dave Neighbor, Aiden Jeff, Paul Ronovich, Corrine Benton, Sue Doster, Dave Wilkinson, Ben Bignell, Richard Porter, Jacqueline Boyster, Noodles, Kevin Reardon, Christoph Zuknerek, Ashish Pants, Ulysses Adkins, Sarah Chavis, Artyom, Rick Ramus, Paul, John McKee, Jason Olds, Brian Carrington, Christopher Dreyer, Lisa Slazewski, Jim Vapo, Greg Riley, Sean Lamb, Ben Rothig, Steve Lesseman, Kurt Larson, Rudy Garcia, Marjorie, Gary S., Robert Greg Briggs, Brendan Minish, Christopher Rappin, Flying Out, Aaron Luthen, Matt Sutter, Mark Hessenflow, Kevin Parachan, Byron Lee, and EO. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And for those of you who are interested in supporting us and helping us out on Patreon, you can find information at TWIS.org. Click on the Patreon link. Remember, you can also help us out by telling your friends about TWIS. And next week, we will be back once again for more This Week in Science. Episode 701 is our top 11 science stories of 2018 year in review show. And I hope that you will all be able to join us as we count down the top 11 stories of 2018 for you. We'll be online at 8 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday at twis.org/live. If you want to join the chat room there, you can also join the chat room on our YouTube channel where we also broadcast live. Hey, YouTube chatters. And past episodes, if you can't make it, don't worry about it. They're all preserved in posterity, and you can find us at twis.org or on YouTube,
where you can enjoy 2 shows a day for an entire year based on the content that we've produced thus far. And we hope that you do enjoy it. TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory, or if you have a mobile type device, you can look for TWIS, the number 4 droid app in the Android marketplace, or simply This Week in Science and anything Apple marketplacey.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, or to look back on some of those very early shows, show notes are available on our website for several hundred episodes at www.twis.org, where you can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts or other listeners.
Or you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line. Otherwise, your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you tonight, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week for our top 11, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. This week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just get understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma. Got the eye. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you learned anything from the words that we said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science. Can't explain things you've heard with more than intuition. A lot of reason shows the way to go. New conclusion. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need. Put on a pair of goggles and go looking for the things I couldn't see. The answers lie somewhere within this scatter plot. Our first assumptions were correct. Disprove the rest. It's hot. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need. Put on a pair of goggles and go looking for the things I couldn't see.
Hello, everybody.
I'm back. It's the after show.
Woot!
Hello. Did you guys hear a lot of white noise?
No.
Oh, good. Went straight to this song. Good. The answers lie somewhere within this scatter plot. I had to run upstairs. Haha, Writes for Robots is in the chat room saying, I remember the 500 show when you all got drunk.
I didn't get drunk.
Yeah,
We didn't have enough to be drunk.
Yeah.
I'm getting not drunk right now on my blood orange sparkling water. But I have it in a nice VUV carrying container. Make it fancy. I always make it fancy. Oh, good. Noodles got the calendars. Awesome. Yeah, it's the holidays. Watch out, everybody. The stolen packages. Oh, have you guys seen the video that's going around right now? The engineer, I think he works at NASA, who he's got an awesome YouTube channel, makes things. He created an amazing fake box with like an Apple product inside of it, but inside he loaded it with the finest glitter possible and this spinning mechanism. So if you take the lid off, it spins up and throws glitter everywhere. And then if you keep the box, it does fart spray.
Oh, wow.
It sprays fart spray. So first you get glitter and then it's stinky. And it has cameras and GPS GPS in it so that it can be tracked so that he can find it. The video is hilarious. It's so funny. Oh my, it's brilliant. And it's all these people who've taken the packages and they're like, "What?"
Oh, wow. Oh, you know what? You know, I sometimes I don't care for the crueler aspects of these gotcha video things, but like Blair's
This is
frozen
the
face
best.
right there. But when they're gotching thieves, I do enjoy it more than I should.
Yeah.
Oh, he
Oh,
can't. He went after the lady.
Gord says, and not only that, the cameras are actually phones with SD cards that auto upload to the cloud. So even if it can't be recovered, he can still see what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. And the way, Identity 4, the way it throws the glitter, it's like this spinning mechanism, and it's like, and he's got all these slow-mos of the glitter coming out of the box. And it's
Oh, wow. I have to go see
beautiful. It's beautiful. NASA engineers, they're the best.
So Blair.
Yeah.
Okay, you're here. So I step out of my house the other morning, and there's a squirrel in my tree, and it is staring straight at me.
Oh yes, this story.
Ugh.
And I'm taken aback because me and squirrels have long had a deal where, like, you can do whatever you're gonna do, I'm gonna do whatever I'm gonna do. We don't really interact, even though we share space to some extent. And it's like staring at me. And I kind of put my hand like, what? With my hands. Like, you know, you put your hands like, what?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, it's bobbing its head side to side. And then it starts, squirrel talking. So I go right back. And I'm like, what is it? Like, it's like intent.
What is it, girl? Last season, or Timmy's so well.
Like, it's intensely focused on me. And at some point, I'm like, also a little intimidated. Like, is this squirrel looking to fight? Like, I've never gotten into an altercation with a squirrel. I don't know how I would do against a squirrel. I feel like I might do poorly against a squirrel. And I go, I put up my hand out. I go, I don't have anything. I put my hands out. Like, I don't have anything. And it puts its little paw out. One paw, it stretches out and goes, makes the little squirrel talk sound. And right then I realized somebody in this neighborhood is feeding squirrels. Somebody in this neighborhood is feeding squirrels. And it's just, there's a human, they feed me, give me my treat. And I'm kind of like, and sort of where the tree's positioned, I kind of have to walk by the tree to get to my car. So I'm like, I better give the squirrel something, which I know is the wrong thing. I go into the house. I'm like, what do I have that's portable that I could throw to a squirrel? I have a cracker, like a saltine cracker. I know I shouldn't do this. Don't reprimand me, because I knew I was doing the wrong thing. I came out with the cracker. I threw it over by the squirrel. Squirrel runs to the cracker, picks it up, like sniffs it, throws it down, and then kind of puffs out its chest at me. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. And then I'm like, that's all I had. And like right now, like, too, I realize, because the squirrel is in front of the tree from my perspective, but is behind the tree from any of my neighbors, where I'm having this like conversation with the squirrel.
With a tree. Oh, okay.
With a tree, right.
Yeah.
I can't see the squirrel. I might not even be talking to this tree. Like, I've just gone nuts. I'm throwing crackers and I'm talking like, what do you want? I've done everything I know how to do to resolve this situation. And then thankfully, somebody is walking their dog, and the sound of the dog makes the squirrel take off. But yeah, somebody in my neighborhood must be
they for sure are,
desensitizing squirrels to being afraid of humans. But I got to tell you, the way the squirrel put its paw out, it's picked up on human signals. It picked up from whatever humans been feeding. This squirrel was smart enough to be like, I know the gestures. It reaches out its hand with food. I reach mine out to take it. Like, it was pretty darn smart.
Yeah, squirrels learn so fast how
really
to push all the buttons.
Yeah.
I say just feed the crows. Don't feed the squirrels, feed the crows. They'll eat the squirrels.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Definitely.
Can't be a thing.
What are you talking about? Crows eat meat.
What? They eat squirrel meat?
Sure.
Wow.
They'll eat any meat. In fact, my dad is trying to befriend some crows, and I really hope that it works out for him, because it's so funny. Their scare distance is way closer for him than for anybody else, which is pretty cool. But they've noticed him trying to bait the gopher holes in the backyard, and now they have tried to start baiting the gopher holes to get gophers to come up to eat them.
That's amazing.
Kiki, are you holding up a history of music collections?
I am.
If you have doubles of the one in the middle, especially, I think.
Is that the one with the Archaeopteryx on it?
The one with the robots song.
Oh,
Robots
yeah.
So Good. Is that it?
Yes. I wish I had it. You're missing it? I have it.
Yeah. I need it.
I'll bring it. I'll send it to you for Christmas.
Perfect.
For TWISmas.
Because I still have a car with a CD player, so I could actually listen to this.
No, not this one.
It's not that one?
Wait, which one? Robots are great.
Robots are good. Robots are taking over in your neighborhood.
Yes, that one is. Was that the first one?
No.
I wonder if I could track down some of these people. Yes, that's the first one.
Oh, that's the one I need. Then.
What's on the front? What is the cover?
Oh, great.
Blood cell?
No, it is an orchid. Marshall took the photo. And I used one of Marshall's photos.
Are you sure you have your CDs in the right covers? Because I'm pretty sure that CD went with that other cover. Is all I'm saying.
2006 music compilation. 2006 music compilation. Robots are great.
Yeah.
It's also got the sounds of no. This also has
something. Meteorite song is like the first one or third one.
No, the Meteorite song is on a different CD.
Wow,
Meteor is on the 2007 CD.
That is one of my favorite songs that I haven't heard in a long time.
Yes.
I need both of those now.
You don't have this one either?
I need to make a compilation of the compilations. This
is the one that I have I think I have 10 of these.
Okay.
I have 10 of these. And then I should check and see I should count how many I have of each of them. I have the most left of the
one with the Archaeopteryx on it?
Of the more recent
I have that one. Yes. Or no, oh yeah, it is an Archaeopteryx, right?
Yes.
And a Velociraptor.
Velociraptor and an Archaeopteryx,
so
yes.
I really think I need all of them.
Both of these have art by Tony Steele on the cover.
Yeah, I definitely
need Steele, the most awesome, great artist. Yeah.
It's also isn't that also the art on the shirt that you were wearing?
No, the art on the shirt. Tony did not do this art.
He didn't.
Our world robot domination.
I thought he did.
No, this art actually was done
by.
Very
angry in that one. The first version of that one, I was smiling, and I complained.
I did.
That I was too happy looking of a robot, and then we got that version.
And I look just composed. Yes. Yeah. I was happy with that turnout.
Me too.
Yeah, I think that this t-shirt was created by Peter Beer, Bihr, and
that sounds right.
I still follow him online, actually. Still follow him. He's doing awesome product work, product design, and Internet of Things kind of work now. It's interesting to see where people end up years down the road, right? 15. My goodness. So Marshall told me today that we need to have another celebration at 750 because that's 3/4 of the way to 1,000.
Yeah.
So
that's a year from now.
Yeah. A year from now, we could potentially plan for next year.
A reunion.
Right. And then there's if we make it all the way to 1,000, I mean, there's 800, there's 900, there's 1,000.
So if we make it to 1,000, may I make a proposal?
That's 1,000. I mean, but then, but even before, hold on your proposal.
I gotta
hold on the proposal.
Yeah.
Yes. There's also the 2020, which would be 20 years of TWIS.
Oh, yes.
Which is kind of big. Also.
So 20 years of TWIS and the 750 will be close to each other.
800 is 20 years of TWIS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say we should have figure out a way to celebrate every day, let alone.
So I think 20 years of TWIS for sure we should do like a live show in Portland or something like that.
Mhm.
But I think if we make it to 1,000, when we make it to 1,000, I
mean,
think we need to
1,000. That's like
have-
what 4? Wait,
that's like 5 years
What-
from now.
4 or 5 years from now. Okay, this is like our 5-year plan. All right. Okay.
So when we make it to 1,000, so we're gonna have to start planning it when we're like over a year out, because I think we should do a festival. Like, it could be a half day, but I think we should do something where we bring on our favorite guests. We have testimonials that we play. We play clips. We go over some of our favorite stories ever. We have a
Yeah.
normal show, but I feel like there's a mixer, perhaps. There's
Mhm.
tickets. There's a venue. I feel like if we make it to 1,000, we should make it a big deal. We should invite some like big names. They may or may not come, but invite some bigger names. See what happens.
I
That would
wonder
be
who the
fun.
big names will be in 5 years from now.
I mean,
I
who
know.
knows?
Who will be the
I
big
mean-
names 5 years?
We've had some big names on the show. We could invite them over again.
Yeah. I think stuff like that, it's fun to bring back like our favorite guests, people that
Yeah.
have been on the show that we're like, you are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We want you back. Come on
Mhm.
back. Yeah.
I have a couple in mind.
Rights for Robots. Oh my goodness. Rights for Robots says that if we make it to 1,000, he'll tattoo TWIS on my body, maybe with an asterisk. Hedging your bets there.
No, he's saying he's gonna tattoo TWIS maybe.
Yeah,
It's
TWIS
gonna be
maybe.
bigger than you think.
So Goldasator, really, if we make it to 1,000, he wants the delivery guy clip.
Yes.
So I don't remember the delivery guy clip.
I have to find that. I have to find out what episode that was. I have to go back and listen to a lot of episodes.
From a telemarketer who was asking who was in charge of my business computer. And I said, okay, I have a question first. Where are you calling from? And he said, Washington. I said, state or district of? And he said, Washington. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
And he had a little bit of an accent too, I think. But I think we got into I was trying to explain to him that I'm not in charge of my business computer.
I'm not in charge of this computer.
find
We
the
got
business
so
computer.
many interesting calls.
But but that was back when we had a
no
the
screener.
phone with the wires would ring, and we would just pick it up live on the air.
Yeah, I think if we did 1,000, we'd have to have callers. We'd have to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we should. Yeah, we should do
Have
that
to have a phone
before
first.
1,000. But yeah,
Like, we could
figure that out.
rent a venue. You can set up a phone line that's hooked into the sound system. That wouldn't be too hard.
Mm-mm. Yeah, we had some well-known people on the 24-hour TWIS marathon. That's true.
Did we?
The 21-hour TWIS
21
marathon.
I don't remember the 21-hour.
Justin passed out during. It's like there's just like all of a sudden, no Justin because you were horizontal.
I pretty
was
much don't remember those entire 6 months of episodes. So
That's right.
That was when I was going to drink a beer an hour.
yes,
And then
I
you got
recall.
ahead of yourself.
And I got ahead of the beer an hour. And was done before the show finished.
Oh, it was
But
so
that
funny.
was the Twisageddon show. That was fantastic.
Yeah, Gord, I think you were on that for a little bit. Yeah. Ulysses, Pamela. We had some other fun people on.
the show before.
Yeah. Identity 4 asking, did I end up going on Star Talk All Stars? I did.
That's exciting.
I did. I was on when I was in New York. I got to be on Star Talk All Stars with Charles Liu and Chuck. What's his last name? I'm forgetting his last name. He's a comedian in New York. Yes. So it should be released before the end of the year, I guess.
That's fun.
Yeah.
How fun.
It was very fun. It was a great conversation. I had a good time. I hope that it gets out and has fun. That's right. Goldazator, you were on the TWIS Mageddon trying out your standing desk It hurts your legs and your heels. Sorry to hear. Chuck Nice. Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. He is very nice. He was wonderful. It was a very exciting little thing to do in my New York trip last week.
It is a.
I mean, not
it
as
is-
exciting as doing a podcast from the hotel bathroom.
Excursion. You're good, sir, the next day after sitting on that.
I was sore sitting on the floor yeah, that was not comfortable. I'm like, my back hurts. What's going on?
So,
I'm in pain.
So I got a new couch, and before that, I had to sell my old couch, and it was lined up perfectly so that the new couch would arrive like the next day, but it arrived defective. So we had like 5 days with no couch. So I was sitting on the floor in the living room, and my hips hurt so bad for like days after we got the new couch because I was just sitting on the floor so much. I hadn't sit on the floor that much since I was like in grade school.
Maybe it's just we're too cushy in our lives. Too many pillows. We need to
getting
sit
soft.
on the floor. I'm getting soft. That's right. I need to sit on the floor more often.
Yeah, I have way
Sit
too
in the
many throw
tub, says Hot
pillows.
Rod.
This is not a thing. I don't know how it started, but there was some point where my kids had to cut me off from looking for more pillows. I mean, like,
You can't
let's go
have
look
any
at
more
pillows.
pillows,
They're like,
Dad.
no, we have enough pillows. You don't need more pillows. You're like, there's room for one more pillow. There's always room for one more pillow. Just that one for the elbow that wants to be up here, but it's down here. You just need that one more pillow to.
You just need enough pillows to be able to use them like modeling clay to make them exactly the shape you want, right?
Yeah. I'm reading through the chat room right now. There's lots of good comments in here. Good comments, everyone. Yes, Pam, 300 shows is almost 6 years away. That's true.
That's all right. We'll be here.
Well, that's only if we continue at this lazy pace of one show a week.
Unless we decide, let's just go faster. We need more shows a week.
We did it.
The Patreon sponsors. If
I don't know how long we did it for.
We could definitely do more.
We did a Tuesday, Thursday, or something of that nature, or a Monday, Wednesday, or whatever it was at the time.
We did. It was a really short-lived thing, though. It wasn't that long.
It was like a couple months, though, at least, where we were bringing 2 shows a week.
But wasn't it only like a half an hour? Or was it a full hour twice a week?
No. It was we took over because they didn't have enough PA in the morning.
Right.
And
That's
so
right.
we were like, yeah, we can do more. And then we quickly realized, like, okay, one of the shows has like 5 days to build up for new stories. And the next one only has 2 days of new stuff to really pull from. We could go back further, but we've already cherry picked. And so we tried to make the second one like the interview and then some story show. And it was fun though. I enjoyed it.
It was, yeah. I'm remembering it. It's so funny. My memory, I'm like, what did we do? We did what? How? What? Wait. Oh, okay. I am such a like. I'm an in the moment kind of person. I'm like, oh, I have a past. What? Okay.
Yeah. Hot Rod says we should do a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and do 1 hour show and 15-minute after show.
I'm down.
There we go. We could do that, right? Yeah, as long as we could fit it into all of the working schedules.
I don't know if I could do it.
Right? Identity 4 says he likes the long once a week show the best.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to oversaturate the market.
Pam's just saying do a show every day and then we can hit 1,000 next year.
There we go.
There we go. That's so easy. Yeah, it's we like Tom Merritt's show, the Daily Tech News show. He's doing a show every day just about. And so they're like at thousands of episodes now. It's like, yeah, okay, you're doing that. All these episodes, but you haven't been doing it for 14 years.
Also, that's like his job.
Jobby job.
If this is my job, I would definitely do it every day.
Right? It would be pretty awesome.
I would love it.
I think, okay, so what I would like to try to do as we move forward, I was listening to past episodes, and there's a certain amount of, there's something that we're constantly striving for, and I think that we have to find that right balance between our banter and being concise and just moving forward with stories. And I really want to try. It's harder when we have an interview guest because that changes things a little bit, but I really wanna try and hit the 90-minute, tight 90-minute show. I
Okay.
really wanna do that. I wanna make that, like, 'cause I feel like that is
Yeah,
it's a more doable number for the
absolutely.
majority of people who are listening to a podcast.
Absolutely. So
Even
Blair,
though some of our audience wants 2 or 3-hour-long shows that,
yeah.
and I'd
So
love to do that, but
so
I'll
Blair,
do other things on Twitch and other
Blair,
things. We'll do other
I
things.
know you just joined halfway through the history of TWIS,
Yeah.
right? But Kiki's been saying that since day one. And the thing that's prevented it from ever happening is the fact that we have so much fun talking. Like that's the only thing in the way of the tight hour and a half is that we have so much fun talking while the show is I'm in the now, don't know there's a past or a future, is also guilty of engaging in the enjoyment of being in the moment of the show. And it's really, I agree. It's really tough not to be like, oh, let me add this to this thing. Let you add that to that thing. I'm not going to cut, it's tough. It really is because we were much better about it when there was another DJ who had to come into a radio station and start their set. And if we went 3 minutes over, we were cutting into their set, their time, what they had planned for.
Well, that was true at TWIT too. Yeah.
And at TWIT, but having, eventually we'll get to an after show and we'll get to do an after show. Like, the after show is supposed to be there to some extent for us to talk about other things, but it's also kind of there, as the way to get to the tight 90, because you know what, I've got a thing I want to talk about here. I can wait till the after show, but what eventually happens is it's just like, well, I'm going to talk about this now. I got this other thing. It's already in the after show. The after show is already an hour now. I can tell. It just keeps bleeding over, and they both get bigger and longer. So,
but this is my goal is in going back, I've been listening to some old episodes. Justin, you were much more concise. You were funny, and we still had banter. There was still banter, but we kept it to an hour, and we still covered a lot of stories. So I think that I love having the freedom to relax into it, but at the same time, I would like for all of us to work toward continuing to talk about a good number of stories that are fun and we have banter, but tight 90. And so when we get to that, like quick stories at the end of the show, they're quick stories at the end of the show. They're not there for conversation.
You to do when you're looking at these. I may say more words, but I also talk faster than everybody else. I've gone based on this, and I've looked at the amount of time and stories that we all bring. And I am actually the minor member of TWIS in terms of time on that clock that you're speaking of while speaking.
For your individual stories, perhaps. But did you clock all of your speaking time?
It's actually because I usually bring exactly 3 stories. And you two bring exactly at least 4.
No, I bring
Blair
3.
Blair brings 3. I bring more.
Blair brings 3 Animal Corner stories and nothing else.
2 Animal Corner, and 1 for the end of the show.
That's a cut down. That's a recent cut down.
No, it is not.
It's been a 3. But Animal Corner was 3 for almost all of your 300 episodes or whatever it is. Right?
No, it's actually that I think maybe less than 10 times I brought a 3rd story because it was something that was really special. But I thought I was being indulgent bringing 2. I thought I was being unfair bringing 2 stories. I've been very careful.
I'm going to go back to, okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just looking at them today. So Luckily, I know the truth.
We don't need to fight about the number of stories.
I think I'm concerned.
I think we're good. I'm the one. I usually bring more stories. I throw things in there, but
If
we need.
nothing else, I'm concerned.
I'm just saying. I think we all need to consider tight 90 and try and bring a nice number of stories.
We just disagree about where to cut it. Is all.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think more interviews also. I think for
Of course.
I'm
That's
gonna
always the answer.
try and get more interviews.
Because especially the run we've been on, like I have really like enjoyed the past, and I can't even quantify it now. Like I've enjoyed everybody we've had on for the longest time. We've had such a fantastic run of guests. I can't even say like there might have been one that was like, no, like it's everybody who's been joining us. We've been having really, maybe we're getting better, right, at interviewing, but or at enjoying the interviews, or maybe I am just enjoying everything now. We've had a really good run of the folks that have come on and having a nice and informative conversation with them. I think you're absolutely right. That's definitely something we should do more of.
Yep. Awesome. Cool. I'm glad we're on the same page there.
But I now no longer can breathe through either nostril.
Okay. It's time for bed for you.
I'm only breathing through my mouth, which is hard when I talk.
Yeah. Rod Hagelin says if we were to do more days a week of TWIS, we'd have to change the name.
That's true.
Which is a good point.
No, that's not true.
Ed
we
from
would
Connect.
Still be talking about what happened this week.
This week in science. That's right. It happened this week.
Even if we were talking about it every day.
We could, split it up into the news show and the interview show. Could do two things like that.
Which is kind of what we did that time before.
Yeah.
It was a big part of it.
We did do that. Yeah.
In fact, I remember a first half, second half interview as part of maybe the Thursday show or whatever.
Ed says back in the KWS days, we were in a basement, not a nice, comfy home. That's right. And you know what's going to happen to that basement? They're getting rid of it.
What?
There are huge. I get emails from the KDVS listserv still, and there is a huge question. Freeborn Hall, where the Aggie, which is the newspaper, and KDVS have lived for years. I guess they did some seismic tests in the upstairs where concerts used to be held all the time as a big auditorium, was found structurally seismically unsound. The basement was fine. It's underground. So they let people continue using the basement, but the top has been shut down for, I guess, a year or so now. And now they've decided to completely bulldoze the whole thing and infill the basement, and KDVS is going to have to find a new home. So we don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to KDVS. This makes me sad.
Yeah.
But maybe it's going to be good for KDVS's future. I don't know. I hope they find them a good home at UC Davis. It's a wonderful radio station.
Yikes.
Yeah. It's a big part of This Week in Sciences. We've been on KDVS since the beginning. So 18 years. 18 years on KDVS. It's a long time. Yeah.
Yikes.
So anyway, hopefully that ends up okay. Thank you, Pam. Oh, Pam's gone. Gord says we could add a show on Wednesday. It is Wednesday. We'd have This Week in Science and This Wednesday in Science. Do that. Yeah, and it's good having I like having the guest in the first half of the show. Makes it kind of easy to just say bye at the end of the interview and let them go. Ben, yes. Oh my goodness. And now you feel old.
That's the third one.
I feel old.
Time makes fools of us all.
But didn't we talk about this last week? There's the fMRI study or the gene expression study, where if you think about certain things, then
If you think you're good at something, right? Wasn't that what it was
What-
about? Or
what was I actually have the story here.
It's if you think that you have the fatigue
Oh.
genes, you fatigue quicker. If you think you've got elite genes, you can.
Yeah.
I thought it
power
was
through.
metabolism, right? I thought it was about being
It was
thin or
changing
fat.
with there were both.
Physical
It was both in the study. They did. It was metabolism and it was so fatigue and also hunger or satiety. Yeah, but basically metabolism was changed. Gene expression was changed. So if any of us, if we think we're old, we're gonna start expressing old genes
Mhm.
and be closer to death just by thinking about it. So let's
I
have
feel
young
pretty,
fun.
oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and bright, and I
feel young.
pity.
And
Young
it's
every
just
day.
handy that we all are. Okay. Say goodnight, Blair.
La, la, la. Good night, Blair. Say good night, Justin.
Good night, Justin. Good night, Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our 700th episode and for just being part of this for so long. All of you out there, I've been reading the chat room. It's making me so happy. Y'all make me so happy. And we'll be back with 701 next Wednesday. Blair and Justin, start counting down. Figure out what stories. This is the show that is the hardest one for us to do all year.
So no new news. Just recap. Top 11, right?
Yes.
Great.
No new news.
Confirm.
Confirmed.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Let's keep this show going. Good night.